YouTube found community, small faces fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We're here today to talk about this compilation album, the first compilation album by Small Faces from the beginning, released through Decca Records, came out June 2nd, 1967. Small Faces left Decca to join the Immediate label, and Decca was kind of like, well, we want to do something to still make money up the Small Faces name, so let's put out this compilation album. And this record's actually pretty interesting because beyond having all their hit singles for Decca at this point, it's got a lot of unreleased tracks on here at the time. This was their first compilation album. It was put together by Don Arden, their manager, who would go on to manage Black Sabbath, Air Supply, you name it after this. And the reason why I mentioned Don is because he'll come up several times throughout this review. This album it's a really great introduction to the early years of the group because not only do you get their big hits at that time, you get to see their creative process and what they were working on that got left behind or would become songs when they joined Immediate. For instance, the first track on here, Runaway, a cover of the Del Shannon classic, features Don at the beginning of the song doing this like big operatic voice thing. Obviously, this track probably wasn't meant to see the light of day in the Small Faces' eyes because it definitely has that demo quality feel. Like, they're getting the gist of the song down. It feels okay. They're getting a rhythm. They're getting into a vibe, but it doesn't sound like it was meant to be released because it doesn't sound or feel complete. And no matter like what state the song was in, like maybe it was near completion, they obviously deemed it unnecessary to release. But in lieu of new material, that could put this thing out with all these other songs to be like, hey, you don't have these songs. You gotta buy this album to get all these songs mixed in with your favorites. It's marketing 101. My Mind's Eye follows that one up, and it was a number 4 hit for the group in the fall of 1966. I really love this one. It's catchy, it's poppy, it's hooky, but just enough of a growl and an R&B feel to make it sound like the Small Faces, but just enough also to be on the radio. It's a little in the Holly style, if you will. It's a little beatly here and there. The smooth vocals are kind of delivered in like a sing-songy fashion, which makes it instantly infectious. Just a joyful track and destined to be a hit. It's got all the makings in the construction of what we know as a successful pop song. Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, Ronnie Lane takes lead on this one, and it's a really cool, reverb-heavy, groovy song loaded with big, bright, brassy organ swells, splashy cymbals, bendy guitars. It's an absolute delight on the ears. I would call it like psychedelic pop because it's got the experimentation that you come to look forward to with psychedelic music, but it's definitely got a digestible quality to it. So for as experimental as it is, it's also pretty digestible at the same time. That Man is a really cool track. I dig this one a lot. Ronnie's on lead vocals again for this one. And again, the reverb heavy effect on his voice works so perfectly. Another unreleased track at this time, but it plugs along just fine. For me, it almost sounds like what would have influenced Dandelion by the Rolling Stones. It's got that sort of happy-go-lucky feel, but also a little anxiety, but it's also got some grit to it. But it's also, again, a pop song. So, one of my favorite mixtures of what makes a Small Faces song successful. When you have all that going for it, you're in for a really fun experience. My Way of Giving is yet another unreleased track, and Stevie's on lead vocals for this one here. Really classic, impassioned Steve Marriott vocals. I love Kenny's super fluid, dynamic drums on this one. The attack here is unreal. And Ian adds some really nice warm texture with his key fills. It's a single-worthy track. It's one of those songs on this album, which is one of many, that you hear and you're like, why wasn't this like a single or at least a B-side? It's crashing, it's playful, and it's totally early Small Faces gold. We're back to the release music here with Hey Girl, a number 10 hit in the summer of 1966. This was their 4th official single. And for as cheery and happy-go-lucky and poppy as this song is, there's some drama behind it. Like, the Small Faces were never really stoked on this song, but they did it basically to make their manager happy. They didn't want to be seen as like teeny boppers, and this song is teeny bopper material, but I love it. It's so fun. It's so catchy. One of the stories that goes along with this song is when it came out and became a hit, Robert Stigwood of RSO went over to see if the guys were looking to jump ship or what they were up to. When Don Arden heard about this, he went over with a bunch of his, I don't know if you say cronies or fellow employees, and they hung Robert Stigwood out of a balcony window by his legs and said, don't come around here anymore, don't mess with our bands. Like, good Lord. Sometimes using your words and being a mature grown-up, that's a better option. Just throwing that out there. Tell Me Have You Seen Me ends out side 1, and this is the demo version. This is the earlier version that may have been given to Chris Farlow to work with his version at the time. This one is a little bit slower, and when they redid the song for the Immediate label, it was much more faster. A different vocal was done. But I mean, as it is, it's a really great track. I really love the hey hey moments. I mean, those are super cool. The song gets pretty groovy, but it also works well in those quieter moments before it rips back into the verses again. Pretty much a song that had all the bones and the meat on the bones for its time before getting fleshed out fully with their debut at the Immediate label. Side 2 opens up with a mouthful of a title, Come Back and Take This Hurt Off Me. I love this one. Another unreleased track. Again, another unreleased track, but the organ from Ian on this one carries this thing so well. Steve's energized and soulful vocals are great. Just an upbeat, catchy song. Could have absolutely been another single, or, you know, it's a really great B-side. All or Nothing. I mean, this is probably one of the most well-known Small Faces songs of the earlier years. This was a #1 smash for the guys in September of 1966, and Steve wrote this one about either a breakup he was going through or the breakup that his future wife had gone through with Rod Stewart. Some people say both cases are correct, but this song is unbelievable. It's emotionally charged. Great background vocals, and overall feeling of pain, exasperated pain. The guitar work on this song is so patient, and Steve's vocals in the verses are understanding. You know, they're mature. It's not like, none of this comes from like a childish point of view. It's kind of like, look, you're here with me, all or nothing. Like, this is just how it's gonna be, and like it might hurt either way, but like this is how it goes. A truly fantastic song, and one of those moments, like when you hear this song for the first time or the millionth time, it takes your breath away because their performance on here is such a garage rock feel. You hear them breathe on this track so well. It's a pretty unpolished recording, but that's what I like about it. I feel like the raw emotional lyricism is the perfect accent on top of this raw emotional, powerful musical track. It's a fantastic song. Track 3, Baby Don't You Do It. Everybody was doing this song back in the 60s, including their best friends, The Who. But this is actually pretty cool because you get lead vocals from Jimmy Winston, an original Small Face before Ian joined. So a pretty unique feature for this record to have him on there. It's youthful, it's spirited, it's energized, it's everything you want from this song. This is one of those like show-stopping songs that every band would do back in the day and be like, all right, we're going to pull out Baby Don't You Do It. Like, this is the good one. Plum Nelly is a cover of a Booker T and the MG song, and they nail it. It sounds so good. You can imagine them putting words on top of this thing. It just swings and jams so well. The way the guitars ring out, the way Kenny cracks the snare, the constant use of the ride cymbal, it's just a rollicking 12-bar blues that works so perfectly for them. Sha La 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 Lee comes up next, and this was the third single from the group, and another one that they didn't want to be seen as teeny boppers with, so they weren't really stoked on this one either, but it was a massive hit for them, basically done because their second single was a written internally song that didn't do so hot in the charts, and Don Otterman was like, nope, that's not gonna happen ever again. Here's a song for you guys to do, and they did it in their Small Faces way, and it worked. I love this song. I think it's cool. I love the rawness of it, but it's also super poppy at the same time. It's something like Manfred Mann could have done. I really dig this one a lot. Kept them on the charts, so why not? And then you get their cover of You Really Got a Hold on Me, and this is probably one of my favorite covers ever. I love the dynamicism on this song, the way they attack this thing, the use of feedback, the way they use empty space. Stevie's vocals on this thing are just out of this freaking world. It's like, this would have made an impact on the charts had it been released as a single. It's a show-stopping, slow burner, kick-ass version of this song where you take the core elements of what the song is, but then they small faceify it, and it gets loose, it gets rockin', it gets jammy. This thing feels like a soul. I love the production or lack of production on this track, but the energy on it is insane. If you're going to hear any song on this album, listen to their cover of You Really Got a Hold on Me. That's really going to stick with you. And ending the album with their first single, their debut single, What You Gonna Do About It, which is actually a song my old band used to do back in the day, which was one of the first Small Faces songs I ever heard. So for me, ending it with this song is really nice because it's kind of a throwback to me, you know, jamming with the guys back in the day. I was playing bass in that band. it's really fun to listen back to it. But this is a number 14 hit for the group. Got them their start. A co-write from Marriott and Lane with help from a guy named Ian Samwell and Brian Potter. I had to read that off my little chart there because they basically added the lyrics to the incredible music the guys came up with. They didn't have lyrics yet, and they knew there was something special to the music. So Don Arden suggested those guys. They helped them out. They fleshed it out perfect because even though the lyrics came from somebody else, the spirit is there, the energy is there. And then you get Steve Marriott's voice just wailing away. And man, it works so well. It's cool. It's punchy. You know, Steve shows off his vocal range. The background vocals are real sly and chill. It's just an awesome introduction to this band that more people need to know, at least in America. Funny enough, when this record came out a few weeks later in June of 1967, their debut record for the Immediate label came out at the same time. So they had two albums competing against each other on the charts. Their Immediate record hit number 12, whereas this hit number 17. So they were pretty close to each other, so their fans were definitely hungry for more Small Faces. Here's the back cover. Good shot of the guys there. Pretty simple layout. And the record itself, really nice poly-lined inner sleeve and that classic red Decca label. This particular copy is a 2015 reissue on Back to Black, and it's an all mono reissue, which is really nice, which probably explains why these songs have such a crack and a bite to their delivery. Mono was kind of known for that punch, that immediacy, if you will, but as a collection, as this thing stands, it's a wonderful introduction to the band because not only do you get their early singles, but you get a lot of unreleased stuff. So you're already kind of digging deeper into their discography right off the bat. So, you know, it did well for its time chart-wise and it sold really well. But, I mean, in America here, the Small Faces never took off. Like, Itchy Coo Park did okay for itself over here, but that was about it. They really never had an audience over here, which is truly sad. You know, they were definitely a lot bigger in England, and obviously when they broke up and had different bands after this, like Faces and Humble Pie, those bands were huge. And then we all know Kenny went on to join The Who later on. But yeah, I really thoroughly enjoy this album. It's a fun listen. I love the early days of the Small Faces. But yeah, this is a great introduction to the band. If you've never heard them before, this is a fun way to start. You get some good covers on it, some great originals, you know, a couple of big hits, and an idea of what they were doing at that time before things got even more experimental and even more in-depth and dynamic over the next few years. A very enjoyable listen. Cannot recommend this thing enough. And it's hard to give Greatest Hits albums a rating. I love Greatest Hits albums. I love to see why they were put together, the track listing involved, who was behind the scenes on these things. I'm a sucker for it. So for this thing, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's a wonderful listen. You know, I would probably rate it higher, but like some of the songs are slightly demo-y and they sound like it. And that's not a slight. It's just if they included some more album tracks, maybe it would have been a 10. But 9 out of 10 is still nothing to sneeze at. So there you go. From the beginning, Small Faces. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. I love this album. My name is Giggens. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.